There's a moment in every person's financial journey when everything changes. One day you're checking your investment account thinking, this is taking forever, and then suddenly, your money is making more money than some people earn at their actual jobs, and you don't notice it while it's happening. Until one day, something in your finances snaps into place. It's not magic, it's just math. And honestly, most people never experience this moment because they quit way too early. There are 3 specific net worth milestones where this transformation happens so dramatically that your wealth building shifts into overdrive. And if you're tired of watching your savings grow at the speed of continental drift, you need to understand these numbers. If you actually want to understand when your net worth starts working harder than you do, hit that subscribe button. Now, before we dive in, let me ask you something. When you think about building wealth, what comes to mind? Maybe you picture some guy in a suit making complicated trades, or someone who inherited money from their rich uncle. But here's what might surprise you. The people who actually build substantial wealth aren't necessarily the ones making the most money or taking the biggest risks. They're the ones who understand something that sounds almost too simple to be true. Your net worth doesn't grow in a straight line. It grows like a snowball rolling down a mountain. Starts slow, then accelerates until it becomes this unstoppable force. So why do so few people ever reach these accelerators? And there are 3 specific points on that mountain where the snowball picks up so much momentum that everything changes. The first tipping point happens at $100,000. The second hits around $650,000. And the third milestone? $1 million. But here's what's fascinating. Most people think reaching $100,000 means you're 10% of the way to becoming a millionaire. They're completely wrong. And this misunderstanding is exactly why so many people give up before they ever see the real magic happen. Why most people get this completely backwards. Let me paint you a picture of what most people think wealth building looks like. They imagine it's this perfectly predictable process where every dollar you save gets you exactly $1 closer to your goal. Save $10,000, you're $10,000 closer. Makes perfect sense, right? Except it's completely backwards. The reality is far more encouraging, but it requires patience that our instant gratification culture doesn't celebrate. We live in a world where you can get food delivered in 30 minutes and stream any movie in 3 seconds. The idea of waiting decades for anything sounds barbaric to most people. But here's where things get weird. The thing that separates people who build wealth from people who stay broke is this. Money doesn't just sit there when you invest it correctly. It starts working for you, earning returns, and then those returns start earning their own returns. This is basic mathematics that's been creating millionaires for generations. Yet most people either don't understand it or don't believe it actually works. The secret lies in understanding compound interest, which Albert Einstein supposedly called the 8th wonder of the world. Those who understand it build serious wealth. Those who don't, they spend their entire lives working harder while their money sits in savings accounts earning nothing. This next part shocks everyone. Let me show you exactly how this works with real numbers. Milestone number 1, $100,000, when the math finally gets interesting. Picture this, your money is barely growing for years, until suddenly it isn't. Imagine you invest $500 every month. That's roughly $125 per week. The cost of eating out a few times or what you spend on subscriptions and impulse purchases you barely remember buying. Now, assuming your investments earn an average 7% real return annually, that's 7% after inflation is already accounted for, so this is actual purchasing power growth. Here's where things get interesting. Quick note, the stock market historically averages about 10% nominal returns, but after you subtract 3% inflation, you're looking at 7% real growth. This is money that actually buys stuff in the future. It takes approximately 7 years and 9 months of consistent monthly contributions to reach your first $100,000. 7 years and 9 months might sound like forever, but think about it. 7 years ago, were you the same person you are today? Time passes whether you're building wealth or not. During those first 8 years, most of that $100,000 comes from your own contributions. Out of that $100,000, roughly $46,000 is money you put in, and $54,000 is investment returns. Not bad, but nothing life-changing yet. Here's where most people make a critical mistake. They look at those numbers and think the process is too slow. They get discouraged. What they don't realize is that they've just completed the hardest part of the entire journey. It's like learning to play an instrument. The beginning is frustrating, and progress feels painfully slow. But once you reach a certain level, improvement accelerates dramatically. Stay with me, because this next part is where things get wild. The part that blows everyone's mind. The next milestone is $200,000. And here's the kicker. It only takes about 5 more years to get there. Let me repeat that. It took nearly 8 years to go from $0 to $100,000, but only 5 additional years to double that amount. We're now 13 years into your investment journey, and you're sitting at $200,000. At this point, compound interest is really flexing its muscles. Of that $200,000, you've personally contributed roughly $78,000. The other $122,000? Pure investment growth. Your money has been quietly working in the background, earning returns on returns. But here's the part that will blow your mind. Even though you've only reached $200,000, you're actually much closer to becoming a millionaire than the numbers suggest. Most people quit right before this moment and never get to see the acceleration. The reason? Compound interest is exponential, not linear. Each dollar of growth generates its own future growth, creating this snowball effect that accelerates over time. It's like pushing a boulder up a hill. The beginning is brutal, but once you reach the top and that boulder starts rolling downhill, momentum takes over and you basically just have to stay out of the way. When your money starts making more than you do. During the next phase, as you continue making those same monthly contributions, compound interest becomes the dominant force in your wealth-building equation. By year 18, you've reached $400,000. Your personal contributions total about $108,000, but your account shows $400,000. That means nearly 3/4 of your wealth came from compound growth rather than your own savings. You're now earning roughly $28,000 per year just from investment returns. Remember how long it took you to accumulate your first $100,000? Now you're generating more than 1/4 of that amount annually without lifting a finger. The beautiful part? This doesn't require living like a hermit. We're talking about $500 per month, being slightly more conscious about discretionary spending. This isn't about depriving yourself of everything enjoyable. It's about making small, consistent choices that compound into something remarkable. The person who understands this and acts on it will build substantial wealth. The person who keeps waiting for the perfect moment, they'll spend their entire life wondering what could have been. Milestone number 2, $650,000, when everything actually changes. By year 22, you're looking at $600,000, and this brings us to our second major tipping point. $650,000 in productive assets represents something most people never understand until they experience it firsthand. Here's why this milestone is so significant. The median household in the US earns about $78,000 per year, achieved by selling their time to an employer, dealing with commutes, office politics, demanding bosses, and all the other joys of corporate life. But with $650,000 invested properly, generating 8% return, you can create $52,000 in annual passive income. That's not quite the full median household income. You'd need closer to $975,000 for that. But $52,000 in passive income is substantial money that dramatically changes your financial situation. Let me break this down because the implications are staggering. For the average household, reaching $650,000 represents a major psychological breakthrough. Suddenly, they realize they're generating significant passive income that can supplement or partially replace their work income. This is the point where most people start to breathe easier financially. The fear of financial ruin doesn't vanish, but it shrinks dramatically when you can generate $40,000 to $50,000 per year in passive income. Suddenly, losing a job becomes an inconvenience rather than a catastrophe. You have options that simply don't exist for people living paycheck to paycheck when you can finally take real risks. But there's something even more important. Your entire relationship with risk changes when you have substantial assets working for you. Maybe you've always wanted to start a business, but were too afraid to give up your steady paycheck. When your investments are covering your expenses, you can afford to take that entrepreneurial leap. I learned this back in college when I was doing dropshipping. Had some early success and almost bought a $35,000 car with a 7-year loan. Thank God I didn't, because that business failed 6 months later. Without that massive car payment, I had the freedom to pivot and figure stuff out. That mistake would have set me back years. That's what real wealth gives you. Freedom to make choices based on what you actually want, not what your bank account forces you to do. This is what real wealth looks like. It has nothing to do with showing off. It's about having choices, being able to say no to things that don't serve you and yes to things that do. Milestone number 3, $1 million, the psychological unlock. When you hit that $1 million milestone, which happens around year 29 of consistent investing at $500 per month with 7% real returns, something shifts in your brain. You'll feel an overwhelming sense of relief, finally. All those years of brown bagging lunches and driving used cars have actually amounted to something tangible. You won't necessarily feel rich, especially with inflation making $1 million feel more like what $500,000 used to be worth, but you will feel validated. You'll realize that building wealth isn't just for trust fund babies or people who got lucky with crypto. As a regular employee with a regular salary, you've proven that the system actually works if you have the discipline to stick with it. Here's what's fascinating about this milestone. Your first $1 million gives you a massive psychological unlock. You suddenly start seeing possibilities everywhere. Angel investing in startups. Now you have the capital, buying rental properties. Your net worth opens doors that were previously locked. You can generate $50,000 per year in passive income, which means even if everything else goes wrong, you're not going to end up eating cat food in your golden years. That's genuinely liberating in ways that people who haven't experienced it cannot comprehend. But here's where this gets really interesting. Some folks get comfortable after hitting 7 figures and basically coast. Big mistake. The people who understand wealth building at a deeper level realize that reaching your first $1 million is like graduating from college. It's a huge accomplishment, but it's also just the beginning. From this point forward, the mathematics become absolutely ridiculous in your favor. You only need your portfolio to grow by 50% to hit $1.5 million. Can happen in just a few years. To reach $2 million, you only need to double your money. Historically happens every 7 to 10 years. $2 million to $3 million only requires a 33% increase. From $3 million to $4 million, just a 25% boost. Each subsequent million becomes easier if you maintain the financial discipline that got you there. This is where wealthy people think differently about money and time. They understand that every dollar has the potential to become multiple dollars through compound growth. But what about market crashes? I know what you're thinking. What about market crashes? What if the economy tanks right when I need the money? Here's the thing most people don't realize. If you're consistently investing over decades, market crashes actually help you build wealth faster. When prices drop, your monthly contributions buy more shares. When the market inevitably recovers, and it always has historically, those extra shares you picked up during the downturn become incredibly valuable. The people who panic sold during 2008, they locked in losses and missed the massive bull run. The people who kept investing, they bought shares at discount prices and made a fortune when things recovered. Let me leave you with this, because most people never hear it. So there you have it. 3 tipping points that transform your net worth from a slow crawl to an unstoppable force. $100,000. When compound interest finally wakes up and starts pulling its weight. $650,000. When your passive income changes your financial security and gives you real freedom. $1 million. When you realize you've won the financial game, most people don't even know they're playing. The math doesn't lie, even if it requires more patience than our microwave society typically appreciates. Start investing consistently today, because 29 years from now, you'll either be thanking yourself or wondering what could have been. And honestly, only one of those sounds worth living with. If this helped you understand how compound interest actually works, smash that like button and subscribe for more honest breakdowns about money and wealth building. Now that you know where you're headed financially, check out my video breaking down where the average person actually stands with their money. Because knowing what normal looks like will show you exactly how to do way better than normal. I'll see you in the next one.